Hello everyone. So London session just opened. There is a slight delay in the YouTube stream, so please keep your eyes on your own charts as well. I'm using the 8-cap charts. If you use a different broker, you may want to adjust your data source. So first of all, let's start with DXY. I expect it to drop towards 103.061, and let's have a look at what that will look like. So I think those were the daily levels. This pivot low right here is where the 103 level is, and then basically the pivot wicks beneath that. And DXY had a quite strong run up, so I think it's heading for this daily fair value gap here ultimately. This will probably not happen within one day, but for now my eye is on the 103 level. Can have a quick look at the 4-hour too. The internet is a little slow. Alright, here we go. So we see that the daily pivots, at least from the last 2 days, are in confluence with the 4-hour wicks down here. So for now my eyes are on the higher level, but if it gets really deep under there, I think we may be taking out the liquidity under this wick as well. Switch back to the 5 minutes. And I sure hope we don't have a delay like this every time I switch time frames. Let me close a few charts. So during Asia session today, I could already see that the DXY is in a downtrend, kept rejecting at the fair value gaps that were made during every new lower high and lower low. Just the very last one, there was a little bit of a wick up, but ultimately the downtrend is continuing right now. So I'm still thinking that we will see these levels soon, and probably that will lead to strength in the EU and GU pairs. However, if we have a look at EU, so yesterday we had accumulation or consolidation during the Asia session. Then in London we saw an expansion, and I didn't catch these two trades. Just in hindsight, I was actually looking for a short after this this high got rated, or the liquidity above it got taken, because DXY looked like it will first dip and then shoot higher, and I was waiting for DXY just to do the move to the upside and then short EU, but in hindsight it would have been better if I just looked for the upside. Even if I couldn't have caught this one because it's not a clean like liquidity grab or market structure shift here, the second one certainly was, but again, everything looks clearer in hindsight. And then I did catch two of these during the New York session. Very nice retracement. Almost all of the expansion of the London session got retraced in the New York session, and I kind of skipped this one because I didn't feel too certain if, since this pivot lower or this swing low did not get under these two candles here. I wasn't so sure if the market's structure shift already occurred, or if I still wanted some more confirmation basically. But once I got the second move, then I started entering shorts in this fair value gap dip, and then in this fair value gap one more time, and got two trades. So yeah, in the New York morning session, the price retraced. Then the New York PM session was mostly consolidation, what we saw in Asia the day before, or I mean it is technically the same day, but I don't know the time zones. And today we saw somewhat of an expansion in Asia, taking the EU price above the $1.90 and change level, and this was these relative equal highs here on the 4-hour time frame. So now that we got the liquidity rate above it, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we get a little bit of a retrace in London, but also keeping my eyes on these highs here, especially since I think first DXY will dip towards that 103 and something level. So we may take out this pivot here. Let me set an alert on EU, and if it pushes further up, oh man, my internet connection is really not doing well. If it pushes further up, then we may go as high as 1.09322. Let me set an alert here too. Quick look at the 1 hour. Yeah, nothing more. So if we start going beneath these lows, I'll obviously try to catch some shorts on the way down, but on the 5-minute time frame for now. Okay, on GU I'm just gonna check the 4-hour and the 5-minute, since it takes a lot of time every time I switch time frames on the charts. So now that we push through the first level of interest, I'll be watching if we get a further push up. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, there is already a possible divergence here, but this is not momentum trading, so I do not care as much about the RSI or the Momiji indicator. This is more market structure and ICT concepts based trading, but I do like to see some confluence in these. Let's have a quick look at GU2. Let me clean up all of the EU chart. So GU was not as energetic, I would say, as EU during the first half of the Asia session, but it really caught up during the last stretch. And what we see here is that there are quite a few like relative equal highs all scattered around, so it is kind of difficult to pinpoint like, oh, this is the level I'm looking at. But we do have a 4-hour fair value gap here, which already rejected, or where price already rejected a couple of times. So I think maybe, especially if DXY goes for that daily fair value gap to the south, GU may be able to push through and actually have a go at the monthly open price. So I'm gonna set myself an alert there too. And maybe at the 50% mark of the fair value gap. Let me just have a quick look at the daily too. I have to sacrifice that time that it takes to load the chart. Alright, so yeah, GU has been consolidating since the beginning of the month basically. So it wouldn't be weird to see a little liquidity rate to the top maybe, and then a reversion from there, or it just keeps going. I don't really look that far because I'm day trading, and for now my initial bias is that both EU and GU will go up while DXY goes a little down, and then maybe mid-session that trend will change. Man, I wonder if it's just TradingView, because all my other charts in my MetaTrader 5 are loading fine, and I do not want to reset my Wi-Fi because I do not know how I can continue this stream without changing the link. If I switch my Wi-Fi. Alright, let's hide these. Okay, so on the 5-minute charts, the levels, oh my god, I'm watching are these here on EU, and on GU I just set myself some alerts. Let's take off the spaceman. And then the Asia session high, which already is getting taken out, but not so strong yet. The Asia session low, which is an equal low. Eventually it is likely that we will get back down here, maybe in New York, maybe tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow there are some news, so I'll not be trading tomorrow. Maybe stock indices in the New York session, but alright. The Asia low for GU and the Asia high for GU. So generally speaking, you see that GU is not as strong as EU. It still hasn't taken out the Asia high, and EU in generally was a lot more energetic during the Asia session. Doesn't mean it will not change, but for now EU is giving us some directional idea, because generally the confluences is quite nice, especially if there is no euro or pound specific news on that day. I think, wait just a second. All right. I mean, there may be some minor news, but on minor news I trade. I only care about the red folder news. Alright, so DXY, I really want to see this level swept first before I start looking for any positions on anything, because I think DXY needs to get down here. It's probably going to happen within the next 1 hour or so, and it's already rapidly heading towards here, which reflects nicely on the euro price, but GU is not really moving, and it's not because the data to trading view is frozen or something. I do see it move a little bit, but not as much. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself for a bit, and if I see anything interesting, I'll start commenting again. So the indicator I use on my charts is the Gone Simple ICT indicator. It's a free indicator I puzzled together and enhanced some of the existing indicators, added some code, and basically made an indicator that is tailored to the trading concepts of ICT that I care about the most. It's free. I will post a link, I guess, in the next live stream description. People on the Discord, you can already access it. It's in one of my channels. And it basically, the nicest thing is that it makes the swing highs and swing lows fairly easily spottable. And the fair value gaps get highlighted. So since I have 3 charts at the same time running, and sometimes I trade the 1 minute, it can be difficult to keep up with everything, and especially if I have my kids running around and asking me questions all the time. So this is the market structure shift level I'll be watching for now on EU. If price dips below this, then probably makes a lower high, then another lower low, and if a fair value gap gets created somewhere in that second lower low basically, then I will look for a short during that one. So just like yesterday, while we are waiting, we may go as well. We may as well go through it. So basically, something like we see here. So it ran higher, then made the market structure shift by taking out this, or if you like, so this. And so it is possible to already play within the first fair value gap, but the safer ones, like if you want extra confirmation that indeed there is a shift to a downtrend, the market structure shifted to a downtrend, then waiting for the second swing low, after a lower swing high, and then the fair value gap in here, while the second swing low is made, the second lower low. This one is a fair, a much safer bet, I want to say. And during these sessions I usually only look for one setup. Yesterday, since I missed the morning stuff, I did do 2 trades, but today I will only be looking for one setup during the live stream, and I would be more interested in the second higher lower high, if it is in a fair value gap, especially if I see some DXY confluence. I like to see, if I want to short EU, for example, I want the DXY to be in a fair value gap at the same time, while EU goes into a bearish fair value gap, so to say. I want the DXY to be in a bullish fair value gap, so getting support in a fair value gap and continuing upwards, while I see EU in this fair value gap getting rejected and heading lower. Those are my favorite types of setups for FX trades on the 5-minute. And DXY is closing in on my first level of interest here, and then we will have to see if it can get something like this, pivot high, or a swing high within this fair value gap, maybe, then another low, and then the market shift, market structure shift. But that's just a lot of speculation, so let's just keep watching the charts, and I will mute myself again until my alert is getting will get triggered, and be doing some other stuff on the side. So we see that DXY just made a U-turn from the lows and creating basically equal lows here. But I wanted to see a raid or liquidity grab, whatever you want to call it, a fake out at least, for me to take it seriously. If it's just gonna continue up from here with not really any candle closes below this level, I will be watching this fair value gap for a rejection. If it goes all the way up here, I don't know. It would be quite lengthy. Also, we have a swing high here, which would be crossed during the retest of this the fair value gap here. But let's see. Let's hope it just rejects down here and we can get a quick setup. The average runtime of my stream so far is 3 hours. In one I got one setup. Yesterday I didn't get any setups, so let's hope we can wrap this up a little faster, both for time efficiency's sake and for the viewer's sake. So EU is still doing its thing up here. I'm already satisfied, so got a few candle closes above it. So I would consider this level rated, or whatever the terminology everyone uses is. And now I'll just watch while DXY goes under this. If it dips really low, I would expect EU to go all the way towards these highs over here. But GU is still under the Asia high, and we do have a possible bearish divergence developing here. Again, this is not momentum based trading, but I just like to keep this in mind. Let's have a look here. Now, so this possible divergence is already negated here. So only EU at the moment. And now we see that the XY is properly dipping under it. We just need a candle close 2 or 3, and then we can start hunting for a setup. Never mind me, I'm just checking the Nasdaq and the S&P on the side, because the London session silver bullet time is right now. Um, just want to check. I usually don't trade these during London session. I'm more interested in the New York session, unless I get a very clean setup, basically. But the stream itself is FX focused on EU and GU. So in the future I may start looking at these two, but for now I'll focus on FX with my annotations and my commentary at least. So technically, according to ICT, this would be a swing low as well, because the two candles on the sides are higher than the center candle here. But it's simply why I do not switch my market structure shift level to this swing low is because I want EU price to really come back down. I'll set myself an alert here, but I'll not trigger any positions based on this. And I will basically still be waiting for the lower high, lower low, and then look for the entry. At which point, ideally, we will already be beneath or have dipped beneath this this swing low. Otherwise, I hope that another swing low is created somewhere higher up here. At the same time, I mean, we could just continue the expansion during London, and then in New York we will see the retracement again. Yeah, pretty much depends on what the XY is gonna do down here. Let's continue watching, and I'll be reading a book on the side. So it looks like on the XY we got a rejection at this fair value gap. So probably gonna get one more low here, and then I'll start looking for the market structure shift. This is gonna probably end up to be a swing high, low, higher low. No, sorry, higher high. Okay, one more time from top. Low, higher high, which will give us the market structure shift, at least the first leg. And then we will see if we can get continuation to the upside, and if the retracement or downtrend in the London session, which I think is still a possibility, will start. So right now, um, I mean, generally speaking, in the structure, you see we have no fair value gaps, even if I were to look for a long, because DXY just rejected in this fair value gap. There's, yeah, not much where I would be looking for longs. I mean, we have yeah, maybe this order block, which encompasses a fair value gap, but my strategy, at least for the 5-minute FX London session, is not based on order blocks. I want to stick to fair value gaps in a clean structure. So you can see while DXY rejected in this fair value gap, there was nothing really going on GU. Nothing that would have given us any kind of entry hint, and the structure on EU is also not that clear yet. So we have a swing low here, and arguably, if this candle closes below here, market structure shift, or at least the initial move. So if DXY starts pushing back above this level now, even though it didn't make a lower low, which I was expecting, but it's not a requirement for me. So it can also be a higher low and then just get back above it, market structure shift here, and then one more retest and keep going higher. That would already be enough for me. But yeah, just a little bit more patience, I guess. So I'm closely watching now if DXY is going to get through this fair value gap, because the negative divergences and possible like potential divergences are piling up here on GU. Momiji momentum also shows me a bearish divergence, so we may soon see the market structure shift happening here. And again, the only thing I care about is the structural market shift. I just use these the RSI and the Momiji momentum indicators for signs that it may soon happen or may not. So EU took out this first swing low. And DXY is still in the FVG, the fair value gap. One place, if it rejects here already, then after the next lower low or the swing low that will form after this one. So if we see, let me increase the size here a little bit. If we see something like this, then I would be looking for a fair value gap, basically in this second wave here. Ideally even under the Asia high would be a great place for a rejection if that lines up with the fair value gap. Great. But yeah, the first sign after this would be that we get a rejection at this small fair value gap here. It's getting close to the OB. Just for out of interest, let's see if we will get any reaction here, even though it will not matter in my trading at all. Something I also am watching is the premium and discount zones. So if EU just keeps dumping from here all the way down to double test this fair value gap basically, or even this one, because it's also in the discount zone, we may get a short setup soon. Ideally it will bounce from here, reject here, make a slightly lower low in this fair value gap, and then we can short at any fair value gap that's gonna get created in here, and then target maybe this or this fair value gap deeper in the discount zone. See, so nice. All right, so action is starting. So DXY push through this fair value gap and this swing high here. Swing low is a higher swing low too, which is great. Now it's pushing through this, so starting to look good. GU also under the first point of interest now. Let me just get rid of some of these lines. Keep the chart as clean as possible. Since the Asia has already been taken, now we don't have to worry about it anymore. I would like this move to extend a little further down in order to say, okay, it's an energetic move, taking out the swing low here, and then we can get back up. I will not take a position if we get this retest of this fair value gap. As I said previously, I'm waiting for the second one after that, this one, that will form during this second lower low. So if you already want to get into a short, it is warranted, I guess. For me, still a little higher risk since we didn't get the confirmation of the downtrend. Definitely a possibility. On EU, let's see where this will bottom out. And then if the fair value gap, this tiny one, is in sync with the OTE zone, I may also consider that for a potential rejection scenario. Yeah, right now, if it bottoms out here, the fair value gap is right above the 62% retracement level. Of course, we have this huge fair value gap here, but let's just watch. I want the second wave down before I take the entry anyways, but it's looking good. It's cooking, getting ready. We just have to see that we take a position on the right pair to get to our target the fastest way possible. Just one more thing to add about DXY. So still a little early. I mean, we didn't get any candle close above the fair value gap here yet. But if it pushes through, maybe gets up till here, at that point I would want to see I guess a bullish retest of this fair value gap. I actually don't know the right terminology ICT is using. But price dip back into this fair value gap, find support here. I know support is also not a liked word by the ICT fanatics, but you get what I mean. So it bounces here, it gives a reaction to the upside, while EU or GU are in their bearish fair value gap somewhere. That kind of confluence I like to see a lot. So DXY is officially through the fair value gap here. So from this point on, I'm waiting for the retrace back into this fair value gap, and basically we'll be looking at what EU and GU are doing at the time, if we get it. So we are seeing the move I wanted to see. DXY is going into the bullish fair value gap. So if we can get a reaction, I want to see it dip a little lower, because GU is also quite close to its fair value gap. So if DXY can make a U-turn to the upside and GU just rejects here and then makes a lower low, and ideally we will get a fair value gap somewhere in here too, and then we can enter the short I'm anticipating. EU is not really doing anything, just going sideways, but probably it's gonna get an impulsive move at some point, either into this fair value gap or in this fair value gap, especially if DXY dips a little deeper. And wicks are okay, but candle closes are never a good sign. Let's see. Good initial reaction. So we got the bounce on DXY, the rejection on GU. EU is not really giving us anything, so let's keep this on the side for now. And I'll start watching for the new low, which will hopefully be made on GU from here with a fair value gap, and then we can look for our shorts. Of course, the XY can always dip back in, and we get another retest of the fair value gap here, so we need to remain patient a little bit. Alright, EU actually dropped under the swing low I had my eyes on initially. But at this point, so I'm not interested in, I mean, if this is gonna be a fair value gap, I'm not interested in this at all. At the very least, this bigger fair value gap, but it is quite large, so 50% and up maybe. If it's just gonna be a small tap into the bottom of the fair value gap, the stop loss is gonna be quite far away. But let's see. Right now, GU definitely looks like the better option for a potential short. And if we start seeing something on GU, like we did in the Asia session on EU, where we get consequent shorting options one after another, then I may stick around for 2 or more trades, but let's get the first one first. So the next step, I want to see DXY go over this swing high, but not necessarily right away, because I will be looking for the reaction, this fair value gap ultimately, and hopefully by the time DXY reaches this fair value gap, I will already be out of my short I take at that time. But yeah, we are getting ahead of ourselves, so for now we are making the higher high. Probably there's gonna be a new fair value gap somewhere on this candle after the next one, hopefully, ideally, and then we can see, while DXY retests that one, if GU will retest its bearish fair value gap. I like to take a risk-reward ratio of 2 in the 5-minute Forex setups. Let me just calculate real quick where 2... Alright, this would be the first one. I did not pull the trigger on this. I just want to see how the market structure, how many 2 risk to reward ratio trade setups we get in hindsight here. So the second one I will take, but the first one would already be fulfilled. So generally, we don't have to be worried about this harsh drop. We should actually welcome it. It's a good energetic move, and the retracement into the fair value gap often happens. We can use the OTE. Just a second, let me clean this up a little bit. OTE levels, premium discount to get a little bit more of a pinpoint entry. But yeah, sometimes when you look at a 5-minute chart or even a minute chart and you see this whole move and you think, oh man, we are never gonna get an entry anymore, bam, you get it more often than not. So no worries so far. So at this point we can already start monitoring and calculating. So if DXY dips back in here, I would want GU to get back in this fairly large value gap, fair value gap, and stop loss above the first candle. This is the first candle here. It is higher than the second candle, so stop loss at the high, because if price moves back all the way there, we may be looking at some other stuff going on here, even though I must say this being in another fair value gap here is a little more risky. But if we get stopped out, we can always look for another setup later, and then the target should be a 2R. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, your broker may be different, so you definitely should take the price of your broker when you look at these fair value gaps and entry exits and so on. And also don't forget to calculate the spread. So what I often will do is like just a tad above the actual high. Can do on a small scale here. I mean, we would need to see where the low comes in here, and I will keep arranging it. But we could basically argue that the entry should be in the premium area because we are shorting. And the fair value gap, 50% of the fair value gap is just above the line, which is good. So I'll already go ahead and enter the order details in my MT5. The broker I'm using today, or the funded the prop firm platform I use today, doesn't allow EAs. So I cannot use the position sizer. I have to do everything manually. I'll probably just enter half the position with a limit order at the center of the fair value gap, and the other half of the position I will market entry depending on what kind of reaction I will see here. But again, I want DXY to be in the fair value gap while GU is in this fair value gap. If I do not see that confluence and GU is already in this fair value gap, and hovering already around here, while DXY is still chilling around here, and then DXY starts to plunge, sometimes you will get a lot higher on the pair you are wanting to short. So ideally we'll get the confluence. I mean, for the sake of easiness, let's just take the exact high. If price gets close to here and you get wigged out with a spread, yeah, you should know what your broker is usually doing. But for the ease of calculation for everyone, I'm just going to take the exact high, and the target is going to be a 2R from there. Alright, so we already got a very early potential topping sign for DXY here, and these red dots don't mean too much. The move can be big, it can be small, just means that potentially bearish momentum is gonna step in soon. But often you also see that you will just get a couple of these switches, but the RSI is almost at the overbought region, so soon we should get the pullback into this fair value gap. Or I mean, I wouldn't even mind if we get into this fair value gap, get the rejection, and move to this fair value gap, find support here, and then take off. In that case, we could probably get a very nice easy 2R on GU. Watching now if this low here will be respected, otherwise I will have to adjust my premium discount measures. So we'll look at what EU is doing. Yeah, so EU and DXY confluence is not that great at this very moment. And we got like numerous fair value gaps here, something I usually don't like too much. Dipped into it a little bit here, but if you look at DXY, what it was doing at the moment at that time, it did not give us the FVG, the fair value gap confluence that I am looking for. We have another fair value gap here, so EU is just not looking as clean as GU at the moment. Let's keep watching the charts. In case you saw the trading schedule I posted earlier in the Discord, I did amend one of the trading days. Originally, I was planning to trade this Friday, but both Powell and Lagarde are speaking on Friday at I think it's either 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. New York time, and Lagarde probably a little later. But anyways, I will probably not be trading on Friday, just in case you missed the update. That makes today the last tradable day of this week, and I think generally all of the days until the beginning of September have either news or some bank holidays, etc. So I don't know yet if I will have any other streams, at least not the London session, but I'll let you know. So DXY arrived at the higher fair value gap. We got an additional one here, but I really would like to see the rejection in this lower one and then get the retrace, because otherwise, yeah, probably, I mean, it could drop like within 1 or 2 candles, but time wise the whole thing is probably gonna get extended. Let me see. So GU is showing a potential reaction. This fair value gap here, which is nice to see. Ultimately, I would like a retrace back up into this fair value gap and then get my short. So price ideally will not take out these lows. Because I think that will be the ultimate goal or the first target for the short. Even though we can exit it a little bit earlier if we get the entry at the 50% of the fair value gap up here. But if GU would reverse to the upside from here and then reject in this fair value gap, we can be pretty certain that the liquidity, the resting liquidity under all these candles is going to be targeted next. Alright, so the XY did go a little bit above the fair value gap, got a candle close, but the next candle after that dropped right away, so still acceptable. And GU started bouncing from this fair value gap. So let's see, ideally, right, let me do the premium discount measurement here. Yeah, so I would ideally want to see DXY dip at least in this fair value gap here to the so-called discount zone, and if GU is hanging around in the fair value gap at that time, we can take a short. So GU is almost in the fair value gap, but DXY is not dropping as far yet. So I'll still take half a position size with a limit order at the 50% level, and I would basically add if DXY drops into this lower fair value gap, because the GU fair value gap is kind of large. So let's see how this plays out. For those interested in playing an EU short too, you can check if the XY drops into this fair value gap, which would be the ideal case scenario, if EU is in either of these numerous fair value gaps. Ideally in this top one here, let me change the color a little bit, you could consider taking a short on EU2. So we are at a place where many people are starting to wonder if they should pull the trigger early, which is definitely an option. I mean, we are in the fair value gap, but your stop loss will be very wide, and in order for you to get a risk to reward of 2, you will have to extend your target further down. So I usually prefer to just be patient, yeah, and basically hope that the vision I have for the most likely price action, that it will unfold. And DXY already dropped beneath this fair value gap. Now I will see if we get a candle close beneath it. If that's the case, then moving further down to this fair value gap is the next logical step for price, and that should give GU the boost it needs in order to at least reach the 50% mark of the fair value gap. And as I said, I only enter half my position size here, and half I will enter manually, ideally somewhere above the 50% mark. But if I see that DXY dips in this really deep, and GU doesn't react, like we saw earlier in the Asia session, for example, then I may take a lower entry on the short with the 50% portion that I will market enter. So I'll remain patient, but for argument's sake, let me just put the potential setup in case we would be taking the market order down here. Yeah, wider stop, wider target. Yeah, I mean, it is not impossible, especially if we see most of the Asia expansion being taken again during London. It could definitely bottom out around here, but let's see if we can get the better entry. So DXY can just reject in this fair value gap and then dip down to where we want it. So that's what I will be watching it for at the moment. Alright, I'm back. So I got filled on my limit order. Still keeping the market order for the case that DXY dips deeper in this fair value gap. And we kind of got the first candle close above the fair value gap. Not a big fan, but we saw the first the same thing happen here on DXY, and then the subsequent candles did not close above the fair value gap, so I would like that to be the case on GU too. But this is exactly the reason why I only take 50% of my full position size with the limit order, and then add once I see the full reaction on DXY, because if I don't have the full confluence here, if DXY dips deeper now, GU may wick all the way up here and wick us out of our position. So I would rather take a smaller position size and ultimately get a lower win, which is still a 2 risk to reward, even with just a 0.5 R position. And then I will be watching EU if I get wicked out on GU and DXY gets really deep into this fair value gap here, then I would be watching EU if it's in any of these fair value gaps, ideally the blue one here. Let's just get rid of this bottom one. But so far the reaction from the top of the fair value gap is good. We saw something similar on DXY happening here, and then we may get a little wick while DXY gets deeper into the fair value gap, but at this point I don't want DXY to spend like several candles in the fair value gap, ideally, because the longer and the deeper DXY goes, the more excuse has GU to wick us out. Okay, so now DXY, let me adjust this, is also in its discount zone. So if it's going to get any bullish reaction from here, it will ideally be in this first fair value gap in the discount zone. If we get a retest of this lower fair value gap here, we will very likely get wicked out, unless we see something where GU just doesn't react anymore to what DXY does. And in the Asia session, I shared some screens on Discord, if you saw them, where GU just stops caring while just chilling, and then it takes the explosive or the impulsive move at a later point. And on the euro, also it's not in the fair value gap yet. If it crosses this 50% mark, of the latest dealing range. A short can be considered. I'm usually not a fan of taking both EU and GU. One of them is enough usually. And since they usually have confluence anyways, you will get the same result, but you should be focusing on the stronger pair for the longs and the weaker pair for the shorts. But since the invalidation from this fair value gap to the swing high is fairly low, fairly short. Actually, it's quite easy to get 2R if we get the perfect reaction here. So I will wait for one candle close. I want to see how DXY is gonna close. If we wick above my entry again, I think I will add the other half of the position. Again, for a risk to reward ratio of 2R. Depending on where I will catch the entry, I will update this short tool. I'll go ahead and sell market. So I got filled at 1.279. So I'm adjusting this second market buy short tool to fit my position, and my 2R with the same stop loss target is 1.27798. So here we see DXY pushing out of the fair value gap, but GU doesn't care yet. I hope we will soon get the drop. EU is reacting well. I think the confluence is almost, yeah, pretty much re-established, but this fair value gap was not respected while DXY was checking out this fair value gap. So and I'm already short positioned on GU. Only if I get wigged out on GU, and DXY is gonna head for this fair value gap, for example, down here, and EU moves into its premium zone and into these fair value gaps, then I may consider shorting EU. But for now, let's just focus on GU. So this time around I really want DXY to push through these fair value gaps and not reject again and come back down. So I mean, it's still too early to move stop losses to break even. Maybe the second entry I took, which is almost at TP, but generally speaking, DXY should ideally be heading at least for here. Or potentially even for the resting liquidity here. I mean, ultimately we can go all the way up here from now. I don't care where the XY goes as long as it's up. But when the XY reaches these levels, depending on where GU is, then we can take we can secure our positions with a stop loss at break even. For now, let's just see what the reaction of the fair value gap will be, because there is a new fair value gap here, and price dipped under the swing low. So basically, if it rejects here, we can expect a move to this lower fair value gap, in which case we can consider either closing our positions early in profit, or just moving the stop loss to break even while we watch the price action unfold. Yeah, my first TP just hit of this market entry position. Made $950 on this one. Actually, the trading fees are quite ridiculous on the platform I'm using, but still good. I think I was up like $1,000. Taking partials is an option, since we are, well, just a second, let me take some. I must have miscalculated my target. on MT5 since I cannot use the position sizer. All of my positions already got closed. You can definitely hold it till original target. I don't know what's going on. I have to check. But all over, it's a good profit for one trade, or the same setup at least. And let me see what DXY is doing. Yeah, so DXY pushed through the fair value gaps too. It's on its way to these highs. So I think if you entered anywhere market or are exposed more than 1% of your trading portfolio, you should consider moving the stops to break even, at least for half of the position, or maybe take some profits, whatever, so you have no regrets. Taking profits never makes you poorer. And so for me the trading session is finalized, since I kind of miscalculated my target. I used the fibs on MT5 to get the 2R target, but I guess it wasn't right. But let's see, 1,500, 1,700. It's like 1.7 R. I'm trading on a 100K account, so it's all good. Yeah, I guess I'll see you again in the next stream. Thanks for joining, and congrats if you made some profits.